I just want to implore people who don't understand, do not fuck with fighters when they are cutting weight. That is like the worst time to test a fighter's patience.
Let me tell you something about Andrew. This is my boy right here. You disrespect him, you're disrespecting me.
Inside fighting. Shout out to Inside Fighting.
We are back. It's the Fight SZN Podcast. It's me, Jesse Rowe with Inside Fighting, joined as always and once again by Inside Fighting's head writer, Timothy James, a.k.a. Timmy Shoes MMA on Twitter. What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be back. Fight SZN Podcast. Got a big event coming up. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Jesse.
Something happening this week that I should be aware of? Oh, yeah. It's International Fight Week in Las Vegas, UFC 290. It's an amazing event. We have boots on the ground. So if you're seeing this before the weekend, make sure you're tuned in Inside Fighting because Inside Fighting's Andrew Capichetti is on the ground, getting interviews, talking to fighters, doing his thing. So we're going to be having some great content this weekend. So make sure you stay tuned on what we're doing here on the YouTube channel. That being said, to me, like, obviously there's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know, did you see Jalin Turner got pranked by a Tik Tok Prankster? I'm Red TV. You saw that, right?
I did see that. Did any news come out? Like, did that guy know who he was trying to prank, or was it just coincidence?
No, he knew. He also did it to Jamal Hill in years past, prior. He actually had Jamal Hill on his YouTube channel just recently where they sort of they talked about it. But yeah, I thought it was staged at one point.
Yeah.
But anyways, so that was fun.
I just want to implore people who don't understand, do not fuck with fighters when they are cutting weight. That is like the worst time to test a fighter's patience. Like the week up to a fight, it was probably the first day for Jalin, but I mean, just don't do it.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Don't do it. It never ends well. Jalin almost actually, for those don't know, Jalin Turner, lightweight, fighting this weekend against Dan Hooker. He actually grabbed him by the neck and kind of threw him down on the escalator. And the guy's, "Oh, it's just a prank." Well, that's their get out of jail free card. And you say it's just a prank. But of course, it ended up being fine. But still, nonetheless, let's stop challenging UFC fighters, trying to mess with them in the streets, especially when they're cutting weight and they're probably like not in the best mood. But
if you're gonna fuck with a UFC fighter, which I would never suggest anyway, it's just always a bad idea. But if you're gonna do it, don't do it while he's cutting weight. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Have a little common sense.
But to me personally, the biggest thing actually that happened this week has nothing to do with any of the fighters that are actually fighting. We just saw it this morning. It came up overnight with the arrival of Threads. Mark Zuckerberg's new rival platform to Twitter, the biggest bombshell breaking news story that could have happened overnight happened on Threads. And it was the very first post by middleweight champion Israel Adesanya, who posted a video of him with John Jones. And this absolutely completely just shook up the entire MMA landscape, because we all know that they've had a rivalry of sorts for over the past decade or so, where they didn't seem to really like each other. A lot of trash talk. You probably know more about it than I would, the history of it, but it seems like they've made amends. They both posted stuff about it so that they're on good terms, that the beef has been squashed. They posted a video inside of the Vegas casino of them doing some light sparring as a little bit of a joke. Yep. They did a face-off, just a lot of fun stuff. And just your overall reaction to this. That's one of those what would have happened moments where we're never going to get that fight now. John Jones is at heavyweight, Izzy's at middleweight. It's probably never going to happen. But there was a time, right, when that discussion was happening.
There was a time, and they were beefing a little bit. I believe it stayed on Twitter or social media, but it was actually before Izzy moved up to go to light heavyweight. So there was actually talks that maybe it could be John Jones that he was going up to fight. And it would have been, one of the biggest fights that they could have done because, Izzy's a big star. John Jones is one of the UFC's biggest stars. And so, at one point, that actually could have been a thing. And it was pretty interesting to see. It's cool to see that they're not beefing. I don't think that they ever actually had any sort of animosity truly when they were beefing back in the day. I think it was more like, this is a huge fight. Let's see if we can try to make it happen. Obviously, people were talking about how that fight would have played out. I think we know how that fight would have played out.
Yeah.
Just because we saw what Jan did to Izzy at 205. But it was pretty cool to see. I enjoyed it.
Well, it's funny because the beginning of the video too that he posted on Threads was he says first Alex and and now motherfucker Jones is what he said, which is a reference to I think there's a Jamie Foxx character in a movie. I forget what it's called. Horrible Bosses, where they say where his name is motherfucker Jones. That's his name in the movie. I think that's what he's referring to. That could be like a deep cut, but he says first Alex, then now John Jones, and what he's referring to is that he bumped into Alex Pereira at the airport like a month back after their fight at UFC 287. Where they had kind of finally settled their beef as well. So Izzy's kind of having these little run-ins with former rivals just in random places, and he's just squashing the beef. And I wonder if like Izzy's kind of just like at that point in his career where it's sort of like he's kind of accomplished everything that he can. So there's really no point in harboring any animosity towards any fighter not named Dricus du Plessis, who
right,
the real African UFC.
Weekend.
Right. Yeah. Which, I think that's why Izzy's in Vegas, by the way, because Izzy wants du Plessis to win. Obviously, that's a title eliminator, but so I think he wants to have a little one-on-one in the cage with du Plessis, or du Plessis will call out Izzy in the crowd after he beats Whitaker, which isn't going to happen, but save that for parlay.
Yeah, we'll save that for the parlay, but I think you're right. I think Izzy wants to scope out the talent and also maybe get some fight buildup if in the upset of it, in the case of an upset.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Izzy. Sorry, lost my train of thought there.
No,
but
do you agree with me though that like he's sort of like, I just feel like just based on what I see,
that's what I was going to say.
He's in this like good place right now mentally.
Right. I was gonna build off what you said, that he's already accomplished so much in the sport. He's at that point where we're getting into the hypothetical fights. It happened with GSP and Silva back in the day. People were like, we have to have these guys fight because they're running through everyone in their division. It happened with Khabib, right? Khabib was like, who's people wanted to see Khabib fight GSP, or see Khabib move up just because Khabib had dominated the lightweight division. I think that's where Izzy's at, right? People are sort of like doing these hypothetical things like, Izzy versus John Jones.
Right.
And we're sort of at the point where it's like, who's Izzy's going to fight next?
Well, that's why
he's cleared everybody out.
That's why I think the UFC put du Plessis against Whitaker, du Plessis, however you pronounce it, against Whitaker, because they're like, we can't really give du Plessis a title shot ahead of Whitaker, so that's sort of the only thing that makes sense.
Yep.
Izzy doesn't really want to fight Whitaker a third time. Izzy even said, going back to Alex Pereira, he said like the only way that they'd ever fight again is if Pereira becomes the champ at 205. And then, then he would go for the double champ status. That's the only way that trilogy would ever happen again. It's just, that's sort of like the price of greatness, especially at kind of a young age in his career. He has so much fight left where it's like, he's cleaned house there. Maybe he's waiting around, maybe he fights long enough for, I don't know, like Bo Nickel, to rise the ranks a couple of years. But
I honestly think that there might be a scenario where Sean Strickland gets a title shot off of his big win.
That seems to be the name. Yeah.
Right. Because they have a little history too. They were beefing, I believe, when Alex Pereira knocked out Sean Strickland. I forget which event it was. I believe Izzy was fighting Jared Cannonier.
Yeah, it was 276, 277, something like that. Yeah.
So Strickland and Izzy were sort of going back and forth.
Right.
And now recently Strickland just won, but he was also training with Alex Pereira.
Right.
So could you imagine, like, all right, Izzy's already cleared out, so they're gonna put Strickland versus Izzy just because that would be an amazing. Could you imagine the press conferences?
That would be wild. Yeah.
But then imagine Alex Pereira in Strickland's corner trying to give him tips, them training together.
Oh my God.
There's a whole bunch of things there that it's like, I know this is a business. Maybe Strickland might not deserve it because he's 7th rank and he just beat a guy who's not ranked or whatever. But I mean,
you just gave me goosebumps. The idea
it's
of
like
Pereira in his corner, not being able to speak English, but still trying to help out for Strickland, who, by the way, was just on Joe Rogan today and talked.
I didn't hear about that.
Wild interview. Talked about how he used to listen to his parents having sex, and he thought that his mother was being hurt. It was wild, bro. It was wild.
I'm gonna have to watch that one.
And then he also talks about how Izzy is a Chinese slut, was something that he referred to Izzy, a Chinese slut. So go listen to it if you're into that sort of thing. But yeah, I agree. I think Strickland is the name that makes most sense, not from a ranking standpoint, just from a, like, there's really nothing else, and it probably sells, to be honest. That card will sell pay-per-views.
We'll see how it shakes out. We'll have a clearer picture after this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully it's just Whitaker or Drickus, and then it's more clear picture, and then Strickland after that. That would make sense. Well, either way, it's good to see John Jones and Izzy bury the hatchet. You know, the two greatest fighters, active fighters in the UFC right now are John Jones, and I think you'd agree with me in terms of accomplishments. I think Izzy and John Jones are the two most accomplished fighters remaining on the active UFC roster, aside from Conor McGregor, which we don't know what's happening with him. But that being said, or Volkanovski, obviously, but
Volk, you could throw Volk in there, but I mean, Nunes just retired. She was the only other one.
I'd still put Izzy above Volk, you know, just in terms of it's like title defenses, who's, you know, I don't know, just because Volk's beat like one guy like 3 times. So I'm sort of like, it's a little tougher for me, but regardless.
It's sort of a similar situation with Usman also, because Usman had beaten the same guys over and over again as well.
Yeah.
He beat Jorge twice. He beat Colby twice.
It's true. Usman too. Wow.
Yeah.
A lot of greatness out there. Hamzat, that's another matchup that Izzy could potentially face. Hamzat. I don't want to see that fight. I'm very worried for Izzy if that fight ever happens. But
very interesting.
Yeah. Anyways, that being said, thank you guys for tuning in as always. And if you want more of this, just check out. We have plenty of podcasts. We're gonna have a podcast playlist too, so you can look at old episodes and everything. Make sure you follow us on our socials. Go check out Timmy's articles on InsideFighting.com. You won't regret it. And yeah, man, thanks for joining me, Tim.
Turn the notifications on so you know these podcasts go up every Friday.
That's right. All right, brother. I'll see you later.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Let me tell you something about Andrew. This is my boy right here. You disrespect him, you're disrespecting me.
Inside Fighting, shout out to Inside Fighting.